Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're update deep into one of the most shocking events of the war, the massive explosion that rocked the Crimea Bridge and the chaos that followed inside Russia's leadership. This single incident has shaken the very foundations of Russia's control over Crimea and exposed cracks within Putin's inner circle like never before. The Crimea Bridge, also known as the Kerch Bridge, has always been more than just a structure. It's a symbol. A lifeline connecting Russia to Crimea after Moscow's 2014 annexation. It represented power, control, and a statement to the world that Crimea was under Russian authority. But that symbol was shattered in a matter of seconds. When the explosion hit, it didn't just destroy concrete and steel, it tore through the image of Russian invincibility. Flames engulfed the roadway, thick smoke rose into the sky, and footage of the burning bridge quickly spread across social media. What was supposed to be Russia's Udist achievement turned into a scene of chaos and embarrassment. In the hours following the blast, confusion and panic swept through Russian media. State outlets initially tried to hide the scale of the damage, calling it a minor fire, but within minutes, videos from civilians exposed the truth. The bridge wasn't just damaged. Entire sections had collapsed. Fuel tanks burned out of control, vehicles were scattered, and traffic was brought to a halt. Inside the Kremlin, reports suggest Putin's reaction was explosive. He was said to be furious, demanding immediate retaliation. The bridge wasn't just any target, it was personal. It was something he inaugurated himself, driving across it in a truck, celebrating what he called Russia's engineering triumph. Now, that same bridge was in ruins, a direct insult to his authority. Military analysts quickly pointed out that this wasn't a random attack. It was precise, planned, and executed with remarkable timing. The explosion happened during a crucial moment when Russian forces were struggling to maintain control in southern Ukraine. By targeting the bridge, Ukraine, or whoever orchestrated it, struck directly at Russia's logistical heart. The bridge was Russia's main supply route for weapons, fuel, and reinforcements heading to occupied Crimea and southern Ukraine. Destroying it meant cutting off a vital artery. Within hours, Russian military channels were reporting shortages, delayed convoys, and rising panic among troops. The message was clear: Russia's war machine was vulnerable. As Russia scrambled to assess the damage, the Kremlin released a series of conflicting statements. One official said a truck had exploded, another blamed Ukrainian saboteurs, then came claims of a missile strike. But no matter what the explanation, the truth was unavoidable. A critical military route had been hit right under Putin's nose. For many Russians, the blast shattered the illusion of safety. Crimea had been portrayed as untouchable, safely under Russian control. But now, even the most loyal citizens were forced to ask hard questions. If the bridge could be attacked, what else was at risk? Social media inside Russia was flooded with anger and disbelief. Nationalist bloggers demanded revenge, calling for massive strikes on Ukrainian cities. Others turned their frustration inward, accusing the Russian leadership of incompetence and lies. The explosion didn't just damage infrastructure, it ignited a political firestorm. Meanwhile, Ukraine maintained strategic silence. Officials offered cryptic comments and memes online, celebrating the moment without claiming direct responsibility. To the Ukrainian public, it was a symbol of defiance, proof that the occupying power wasn't invincible after all. As the world reacted, satellite images and drone footage began revealing the true extent of the damage. Multiple spans of the bridge had collapsed. The railway section was burned and twisted. Repair crews rushed to the SC. But experts said restoration could take months. Russia tried to reopen partial traffic quickly, but the psychological damage was already done. Western analysts noted that the timing of the attack was significant. It coincided with a series of Ukrainian counteroffensives in the south, especially around Kherson. The bridge explosion added pressure on Russian logistics just as their front lines were already weakening. For Putin, the optics were disastrous. His carefully built image of strength and control was suddenly under siege. Inside the Kremlin, trusted advisors were reportedly blaming one another for security failures. Intelligence agencies were ordered to find those responsible, both inside and outside Russia. As retaliation, Russia unleashed a wave of missile strikes across Ukraine. Dozens of cities were targeted. Energy infrastructure was hit. But even that show of force couldn't erase the humiliation of Crimea's bridge burning on live video. The narrative had shifted. Russia looked vulnerable. Military experts began to openly question the sustainability of Russia's war effort. Without full control of the bridge, supplying tens of thousands of troops in Crimea became far more difficult. Every convoy now had to reroute through dangerous territory or rely on slower ferries across the Kerch Strait. Reports surfaced of logistical bottlenecks, shortages, and morale collapse among soldiers stationed in Crimea. Videos leaked showing desperate troops complaining about lack of food, fuel, and ammunition. It was a glimpse into how a single explosion could ripple through an entire military operation. Inside Moscow, propaganda efforts kicked into overdrive. State TV anchors repeated claims that the bridge was already being repaired and that traffic would resume soon. But the reality on the ground told a different story. Engineers struggled to stabilize the structure. Satellite photos showed cranes, barges, and construction teams working around the clock, but progress was painfully slow. Meanwhile, Western intelligence services were closely monitoring every development. They described the bridge blast as a turning point, not just militarily, but psychologically. It proved that Russian defenses could be penetrated, that Putin's grip on Crimea was not unbreakable, and that Ukraine still had the initiative. In the days following the explosion, Russian citizens began noticing the cost of the war more directly. Gasoline prices in Crimea rose sharply. Supply delays became common. Ordinary families complained of shortages in supermarkets. Even tourists began leaving Crimea, fearing further attacks. Putin's public image took another hit when he appeared visibly angry and tense in televised meetings. Analysts noticed his tone shifting from confidence to frustration. His speeches became filled with threats and accusations, targeting not just Ukraine but NATO and the West. At the same time, cracks within the Russian elite became more visible. Several high-profile figures criticized the defense ministry for its failures. Others called for total mobilization. The bridge explosion had opened political wounds that could no longer be hidden behind propaganda. Internationally, the event boosted Ukraine's morale and strengthened Western unity. Countries supplying Kyiv with weapons saw the attack as proof that their aid was making a difference. The symbolism was powerful. Russia's pride had literally gone up in flames. Even months later, the effects of the explosion continued to echo. Russia announced partial repairs, but experts said the bridge would never be as strong or secure as before. Every truck crossing it was a reminder of vulnerability, a scar in Putin's new Russia narrative. The attack also forced Moscow to rethink its strategy in the south. Without reliable supply routes, holding Crimea became a logistical nightmare. Some analysts even suggested that Russia might eventually have to abandon parts of the peninsula if the war dragged. In Ukraine, celebrations were tempered with realism. Officials knew that Russia would respond with heavy retaliation, and they prepared for renewed missile barrages. But the psychological victory was undeniable. Ukraine had shown the world that even the most fortified targets were not safe. The Crimea Bridge explosion also reshaped global perceptions of the war. It shifted the tone from a grinding stalemate to a conflict where Ukraine could strike deep into occupied territory. It proved intelligence, planning, and precision could outperform brute force. As weeks turned into months, the bridge became a symbol of defiance. Artists, meme creators, and activists used its image as a rallying cry. The bridge will fall again, some wrote, suggesting that no amount of repair could restore what was lost, Russia's illusion of control. Inside Russia, however, fear began to spread. Citizens who once supported the war started questioning its purpose. Mobilized soldiers' families demand answers. Independent journalists reported growing anger toward the Kremlin's secrecy and disinformation. The explosion's timing also had a deep emotional impact. It came just after Russia's controversial annexation announcements for occupied Ukrainian regions. While Putin celebrated those moves in Moscow, the bridge was being destroyed in Crimea, an ironic twist that undermined his grand narrative. Over time, investigations continued. Russian authorities arrested several people, accusing them of being part of a Ukrainian plot. But many observers dismissed the trials as showpieces meant to calm public anger. No credible evidence was ever released. For historians and analysts, the Crimea Bridge blast will likely be remembered as one of the defining moments of the war. It demonstrated that symbols of power can become targets of resistance. It also revealed how quickly control can slip away, even for a leader as powerful as Putin. As reconstruction efforts dragged on, Ukraine continued, pushing forward on other fronts. Each success built momentum, while Russia faced mounting isolation, economic sanctions, and internal dissent. For ordinary people, the bridge's destruction symbolized hope, the idea that even the strongest oppressor can be challenged. For Russia's leadership, It was a haunting reminder that arrogance can lead to downfall. The wider world watched as the war entered a new phase, one where control, logistics, and morale mattered as much as territory. The explosion wasn't just a military strike, it was a message that the conflict had changed forever. In the end, the Crimea Bridge explosion will stand as a turning point, not just in this war, but in the story of modern conflict. It showed that power built on fear and propaganda is fragile when faced with determination and strategy. As the smoke settled and the sea carried away pieces of twisted steel, one truth became clear: control can be lost in an instant. And even the mightiest bridge can burn.